Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Horn Hangouts. I hope you had an absolutely lovely weekend, and I hope you all enjoyed the third Horn Hangout that we did. What a lovely bunch of people they were. And I am with another bunch of lovely people today. I have three of the most amazing natural horn players, actually horn players in general, but natural horn players in the world. And it's just been such a lovely little moment before the Horn Hangout started for me. I hadn't met Anneke Scott before. It was lovely to see Roger again, and Tony was my teacher. So it's just so lovely to have all three of you here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Tony. Welcome back to the Horn Hangouts. And Roger, last time I saw you was we had a very special project. It was the last thing I did before Corona started. Or
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we were recording at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, recording a piece of Richard Bissell's for 8 horns and rhythm section. It was absolutely fantastic. Quite a way to go out, but of course I didn't know at the time that would be my last playing with other people.
none of us did that. It was so weird, wasn't it? To actually, I got out just before all the airports closed, so that will always stay in my mind as a very special recording, and soon we'll be hearing it, I hope. But yeah, you are part of my Corona history. And Annika, lovely to meet you at last. Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
it's about time.
I know.
I have to tell you, when I always ask the Horn Hangout audience who they'd like on the Horn Hangouts, what should we do? Your name always comes up.
Oh, that's
You
lovely.
you have a lot of fans out there, and you have a lot of people in the chat right now who have been waiting for you to be on the Horn Hangouts.
Oh,
So
brilliant. Thank you.
it's fine, great to have you. Have actually, I think Anneke Scott must have the best set of chops of us all. And do any of you know why? She has basically played us, well, mostly every day. You did it on Black Tuesday, which that was very appropriate of everybody
Yeah,
that stopped their social media that day. You played a quoniam, a Baccharal every day, like literally every day.
yeah. So it started because a colleague of Roger and Tony and mine, trombone player Adam Wolf, put up this thing right at the beginning of the whole Corona shutdown, and in fact we'd just come back. He and I play in the same orchestra, and we'd just come back from a tour of the States, and there was this sort of collective feeling of we'd just finished this tour and we'd come back to this thing, and it's an orchestra where the musicians come from all around Europe, so we kind of felt very lost. We'd lost one another and things like this. So he put up a virtual Bach chorale thing that it's still going. I think if you Google Bach together Adam Wolf, you'll find it. And the idea was to put musicians around the world together playing this one chorale. So yeah, go all the horn players watching today, go and flood it with horn players, because you can basically choose whatever part you want. And he got in touch with me because he knew I'd just got another new horn, which would have been completely inappropriate for the Spark thing, and said, oh, how about you contribute that? And I thought, no, I've got something which would be much more appropriate, which is this Corno di Terrazzi. And so I enjoyed it, and I thought, actually, I've got nothing else to do for the foreseeable future, so it's a really good way for me getting to learn to play this instrument. It's a small, manageable thing. So every single day I've played a Bach chorale. Yeah, so that's kind of kept me out of mischief.
How many have you done in total?
Today is day 83.
Wow.
So yeah, every single day, and it's how it is. It's nice to have a small, manageable task. And every so often I get one, and it's a little bit, goes either into a nasty key for the instrument or goes kind of like into not very nice range. But it's just something I've been doing every day, is playing one of these chorales. I thoroughly recommend it. Yeah.
I must say, listening to these, I haven't listened to every single one of them, but a lot of them. Tony, why is it that these chorales are written so high?
Well, at this point, I was going to ask Anneke to show us the Corno di Terrazzi, because it's a completely sort of unknown quantity.
Yeah.
In the horn players. Certainly is to me. I mean, I stopped playing natural horn nearly 10 years ago in public, and I regret I never ever explored the corner de terrasse, which you clearly have. And I'm sorry to say, I haven't heard your daily performances. I haven't known. So I've got a lot of catching up to do, but I'd love to see and hear this instrument. So tell us something about it.
Well, I mean, Roger's got an interesting perspective on this as well, because I remember in 2000 when it was the Bach anniversary, and Roger, you were doing all the cantatas with John Elliott.
Some of them,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and because you also explored this, because I remember you were working with, Tony's old colleague John Webb on this.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Would you like me to say a bit about that?
Yeah, because I think that, yeah.
Okay, it's nothing like as sophisticated as your one, I think. What I thought, I mean, the whole problem of a slide horn, which is basically what it is in an instrument that's supposed to taper all the way from beginning to end. How on earth do you introduce a slide?
I don't understand. I mean, this is really, for me, this is a fantastic learning tool, and I think for most of us watching, because how on earth did a slide get in there?
Well, the person who I have to do the shout out to there's a colleague of ours, Olivier Picon, French horn player. He plays a lot with Baccalaureate Japan and groups like that. Really, not only a fantastic horn player, he's also a really good jazz horn player as well. And if you look for his work, he's the one who's been doing all the research. He's the one who's been doing a lot of looking around this instrument. And he works with the Swiss maker Egger. So this is the results of their research and everything. And basically, the problem we have is no instrument appears to have survived. At least we've not been able to identify one. So we just have the music to go on. We can just extrapolate from the music that Bach wrote. And it was for quite a short space and time that he was writing for this instrument. And so what Olivier has done is he has looked at instruments that a Leipzig maker at this time would have known, techniques that they would have used. And so that's the basis of this hypothesis. So you've got this bit, which is, if you've ever seen the portrait of the trumpet player Gottfried Reicher, he's holding one of these. So, and then on the back, you've basically got an alto trombone, a bit of an alto trombone slide. So, so the back of it, you just pop that in there. And so the instrument that I remember from Roger, with that one, am I right in remembering that the body, you move the body of the instrument up and down a slide?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely right. So it was what it was. It was a tapered lead pipe, which had a straight sheath over the top of it, and basically you held the lead pipe and moved the horn.
Yeah.
And it was a very tightly wound horn like that, although a little bit less rigorously researched. I think it was the guts of an old jazz trombone that John Webb had lying around. That he wound into a horn shape and did a tapered body. So what that meant was that I suppose the body of the horn was basically tapered, apart from the one when you pulled the slide out, there was a little bit of cylindrical in there. But of course, there are two problems with this horn that I didn't really foresee. One was that you didn't really have enough pull to get more semitone in a high key, and the other was that you keep on hitting yourself in the face whenever you bring it back. You're extremely careful.
Yeah. So the thing I just realised now is the chorales that I've been doing, it purely was I just kind of put my phone on my desk, and it's kind of more comfortable because I'm up in my room and I've got an attic ceiling here, so it's more comfortable to point that way. But the whole thing is you don't see so that's how it works. I haven't shown the kind of like, yeah.
I've got to out myself here. I'm a little bit ashamed. I was literally in the Bach Museum yesterday. I was in Leipzig all day yesterday, and I've just got back. I got back an hour ago. I went to the museum and I thought, I'll look for Anneke's instrument. I hadn't actually realized that it didn't really exist.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to say that. I was thinking this was I hadn't looked up enough about it, but I've been seeing it so often. I thought, oh, I wonder if I can find it. But he only used it in like 4 or something cantatas, or what was that?
Yeah, I think that from what I can remember, there's only about 4 where he actually explicitly writes corno to terrassi, but there's a lot more where he would just write corno, but you look at it and the writing is so different. So this is in high B flat or high A, and all these terrassi parts really fit nicely on that. That's one of the challenges of doing these chorales a day, because every so often I have to do something which doesn't fit nicely on this instrument. And they're always very, very high, and it's one horn on its own, often doubling the soprano line. So there are more cantatas than the 4 which Bach actually points out. But yeah, the chorale day has been good fun, and it's also been fun because I've also seen like lots of colleagues have also been sort of finding ways to do chorale. So there's a mate of mine, Nigel Braithwaite, up in the Midlands, and he's been multi-tracking Bach chorales with Wagner tubas. So yeah, everybody should just go and explore it. It's great fun.
Bach chorales with Wagner tubas. I really like that idea, actually. F Wagner tubas. If you've just joined us live on Facebook, welcome. You are watching the Natural Horn Hangout with superstars of the natural horn world, Anneke Scott, Roger Montgomery, and it's not Ellen Odell on the left-hand side of my screen. It's Tony Halstead. Tony, it's Ellen's name on your photo, on your picture for Zoom, but she's a technical one in the family. Right?
Oh, she's my wife, and this is her laptop. It's not my laptop, and I don't have Zoom on my computer, so I've had to ask for special permission to borrow Ellen's laptop, and that's why it's got her name on it. Ellen's a wonderful violinist, but she has suffered the horn getting on for 40 years now, 36 years, I think. Yeah.
Tony, do you recognize this?
Of course. I remember you bringing that into Guildhall just after you'd bought it from John Webb. And I was absolutely delighted, as you may imagine. Delighted on musical terms, not on financial terms.
No, I remember my father complaining about the price of this.
It was cheap at the time, and I'm sure it would be even cheaper now, but I'm told that second-hand ones now, well, they're only available second-hand. Sadly, my colleague John Webb passed away in 2014. But second-hand ones do turn up, and they're pretty pricey now. But look, when we talk about price for modern horns, the natural horns, baroque horns, whatever, you need to speak to Ellen, because my wife, because she's a violinist, she sometimes hears me talking to a pupil or somebody on the phone, and I say to them, look, this is a really expensive horn.
Yeah, and the violinists just think, yeah, whatever.
£10,000, I say. And she says, she's giggling, that's entry level for a violin. So we're lucky, we horn players, we can get the most expensive horn in the world, and it's entry-level violin.
Yeah, absolutely here. Now, I just wanted to show you, I asked Tony and Roger and Anneke if they could send me some photos that we could do this complicated screen sharing thing, because there are so many different types of natural horn. Mine's a Halstead Webb, and I'm very proud of it. And by the way, Stefan Dorr just used it recently to play in the Britain tenor horn and strings. That's actually the outing it's had the most recently was a few concerts of that. And he loved it. So, but Anneke sent me some absolutely, Anneke, you've got an amazing website, I must say. Really an amazing website with also, if you want to know anything natural horny, go to Anneke's website. And there's a short history of the horn, and there's some, are they all yours, Anneke?
Yeah, I was just giggling when Tony was talking about, absolutely agree with you about what you're saying about entry level prices for string instruments. The problem is when you start to get more than one, and yeah, so this is these are all mine. There are some that are not on there, but yeah, when you're working in the sort of historically informed performance world, you find yourself gravitating towards, you want to have a German instrument to do 1830s repertoire and another one to do 1860s, and And I think part of the reason I've got so many piston horns is I'm just trying to find one that does everything I need it to do. You know, they all have different quirks. And oh, that one's not mine. That the two valve one that belongs to Chris Larkin.
Right.
That was one that he.
And then we go all the way down there. Chorus solo. Why do you have a picture of him here?
Because the to the left is that same design of instrument.
Right. Got it.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's.
And then we go down here to the valves. We're doing a quick history of the horn within seconds. The thing about these horn hangouts, I don't like to answer the questions you can Google. We like to get, get down to nitty-gritty. So you can see all these on Anneke's website, the valves horn, and then we get right down to the bottom. I was very happy to see that.
Yay!
So and then also Tony, look at this pretty one here. Look. Isn't that pretty with the painted bell?
Is that a Webb?
Yes, it's a Webb Halstead. Yes.
And who painted the bell?
Isabel Osseler. She's a Belgian.
Beautiful.
I met her. Jeroen Billet, the Belgian.
Oh yes, Jeroen. Yeah, no.
Last year, Isabel is an old student of his, and she's doing really interesting research at the moment into the whole art of painting bells.
Yeah.
So she's a fine art restorer, so she's looking at it from the point of view of how we preserve these things and how her work's really interesting. And so yeah, she painted it for me.
It's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for those. And Roger, poor Roger, I didn't mean to stress you. I said, Roger, send me some pictures of your horns. And you have a wonderful Google link, but I didn't want to share it here. But maybe if you don't mind, maybe when we finished and we can share the link and then you can see all Roger's special horns. But Roger, people are writing in and saying, Isaac has said, can you ask Roger to explain this photo?
Yes, I can explain that photo. It's been very tastefully updated by Sarah, I think, to have the horn hangout.
Cool, huh? We were proud of that.
This is one of a very long series of publicity photos done by the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. It's a self-governing orchestra. Although I do quite a bit of period instrument performance, that's where the main part of my activities are based now, in period instrument. And I think I succeeded Tony in 1994 as first horn of the orchestra, and sort of ticked along as an joint principal with Andrew Clark until he left, and then I had to sort of give a bit more serious commitment to it. But they used to have, every season used to have themed publicity, and we never knew what it was, and they would just invite people to turn up with their instrument and contort themselves into various poses for the publicity. And I sometimes used to dread these, because the very first one I did, and I won't show you that picture, they were trying to show the similarities between the musicians of the orchestra and athletes.
Oh, we want to see that picture.
I'm afraid you can't, because it's I haven't got it right here.
Okay, well, I'm gonna bug
online.
I'm gonna bug you for that, and we're gonna try and post
a very
that
old one.
Later.
We're talking in the 90s, but basically I had to have 2 natural horns suspended from the ceiling. And
you were doing
gym rings, yes, but I was upside down, so they had me hanging by my legs from a trapeze, holding onto these, pretending that I was supporting myself. And it took so long. It took about an hour to get the shot done. And it doesn't look good because my tailcoat is hanging down behind me like a bat, and all the blood's gone to my head, and my cheeks puffed out.
We need this picture. We need this picture on the Horn Hangouts. I will do my best to bribe Roger to get hold of that. Yes. So for those of you who've joined us, we are holding a Natural Horn Hangout today with Anneke, Roger and Tony, and we're looking forward to getting your questions. I know a lot of you started watching on the website, and the sign of a really good Horn Hangout is when the website crashes, because there's so much traffic. So that's what's happened to the website. But never fear, because everybody, the Horn Hangout viewers are just the best. They've all moved over to Facebook en masse. So that's why we like to stream in two places. So nobody's missing a thing of this. And if anyone does, then it'll be archived later. So thank you for all of you Horn Hangout regulars that have moved over to Facebook but are keeping the chat going. It's quite incredible, really. My mum has just written, Tony, my mum says, good afternoon from Isha. She's very happy to see you again.
How lovely. I remember the last time I saw your mum, and this dates me, I'm afraid, and her too, was I sat next to her in the Queen Elizabeth Hall when you, Sarah, played a Mozart concerto with that orchestra. Was it David Josephowitz?
Yes.
And it was beautiful, beautiful musical playing.
Thank you. I learned it all from you.
Would have been even nicer on the natural horn, Sarah.
Oh, now the thing is about the natural horn. Before the hangout started, I said to Tony, I said to all three of you actually, I warmed up on my natural horn today, and as a purely modern horn player, you do feel a little bit naked, a little bit vulnerable with no valves whatsoever. I know you're used to it. Anneke, I was watching you playing the galleys. I mean, it's just incredible, this hand technique that goes on there. By the way, if you haven't seen them, watch Anneke's galley, the 12 caprices, aren't they? Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Just amazing. And you're welcome to put the links to all these things in the chat to my dear Horn Hangout viewers. You guys are so active with links. Thank you for that. But warming up on this, I'm happy to get the harmonics. And I told you this, and Tony, you said something very important about why we should play the natural horn, why all of us should play the natural horn.
Sorry, is this a question to me?
Why? Yes, just no. You remember what you told me before the hangout. Sorry, because I said, we should, all horn players should learn how to play the natural horn, not only because it's our origin, because it's good for our
soul, the soul. Yes, the inner horn player. Yes, that's true. I mean, surely there's nothing to beat the sense of achievement of man or woman wrestling with the elements, wrestling with science, wrestling with physics, and the fact that we can bend a harmonic series to do our bidding. It's always seemed to me to be something a little short of miraculous. And I have to say, although I don't play the natural horn in public, I decided to give up on my 65th birthday before people wished that I would give up. Anyway, but I still practice it every day. I don't have any of my posh instruments now. I sold my lovely Webb instruments, but I do practice on a very cheap entry-level Chinese-made natural horn. And using that horn, I've been able to discover in the last few days, using Anneke's humpback bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been able to finally, after years, I can now, I think, play quite strongly the low E below the G. I've always been able to sort of get that by lipping down, but now using your, look everybody, you've got to get, any hand horn player out there, you must buy Anneke's absolutely magnificent book. Here it is.
Thank you for that, Tony, because that is coming up, the historical horn road. Bravo for that, Anneke. It's really, I do not own it. I will do you a swap, the book for a Horn Hangout t-shirt. How does that sound?
Oh, perfect.
Okay, done. Yes, so there's something about a humpback bridge in there, about the way that...
Anneke, over to you.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking earlier about who studied with whom and things like this, because I'm certain this is something that I picked up from Andrew Clark. So Andrew Clark was my first teacher, and he was one of your students. And one of the things which I think with hand technique, especially when we're coming from the point of view of having learnt stopping on the modern horn, this idea of it being sort of a fixed open position, and you've got this door that opens and shuts. And actually what you're doing with hand horn playing a lot is a lot of stuff with your fingers. So for example, I sometimes pull back my fingers so they're like that, or sometimes I'll bring two fingers down below the other. So there's all these sort of subtle things, and that kind of sounds really complicated, but it's basically you have to think about intonation the whole time and adjust accordingly. And I kind of find that approach a bit more easier than going fractions and things like this. But the humpback bridge is, if you imagine a normal neutral hand position, as if you're playing the modern horn open, but then you just bring that from the far side of the bell to the body side. So you have, if that was the curve of the bell, like that, and then you can sort of just flatten it or make it more steep. And
are we like that? Hello. Can't.
If I show here, so normally like that, but if you pull it to this side,
Everything I tell my students not to do.
yeah, exactly. So pull it to this side, and then you can if you bring your hand closer together or further apart, so you know, you could have it flat on that side, or but the idea about bringing it to this side, so for things like what are we in? Oh, of course, it's full of water.
Of course, it's a horn hangout. We understand.
Yeah, that didn't get it. That's the problem with this design of horn. You get all the water in there.
Yeah.
So if you use it for the top F, it means you get a very open sounding F.
I wonder if we can use that on stage in sort of big Mahler symphonies or something, or you know, to get that pedal E in the Shostakovich, you know, in Shostakovich 5, you know.
It's just you have to be very flexible, very fluid. And I think as soon as you get away from this binary idea, on, off, open, stopped, and as soon as you start to just be a little bit more fluid and experiment with what you're doing with your fingers, then you can get so many more colors, and the intonation tends to be better. And yeah, so
Fantastic. Sam Holbert has just posted the link to your book. Margaret has as well. Andre Lipkin says hello to all three of you. He's watching. Hello, Andre. Jennifer Montone, principal horn of the Philadelphia Orchestra, is watching. Good morning, Jen, and says thank you. This is so helpful. And Sam also, no, Michael Sursor wanted to know what's the oldest horn you all own. Roger, which is your oldest horn? If you might not have spray painted that yet. I just every time I want to speak to Roger, I just have to just look at your picture, because it's just if any of you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Sorry, I just have to show you again. For those of you that's only just joined, that is Roger spray painting the horn hangout.
Thank you, Sarah. That's about as edgy as I get. Really. See photos like that. The
You're
eldest
cool.
I own, I think, is actually a little, almost like steer horn. I think it's like a little hunting horn. I found it in Bermondsey Market. It plays one note only. Well, it actually plays two notes, and they're a major seventh apart. And I think it's old because it's seamed. It's tapered all the way through. It basically is just like an animal horn. It's just a single sort of curve. It's seamed.
Oh, like that?
Exactly that kind of size.
Something like that? Just a little bit smaller.
No, it is just about that size, actually.
That only gets one note.
Just about that pitch as well, a semitone lower than that. And it's also got little paring marks on it where it's obviously been shaved down with a knife all the way around. So, I mean, and those kinds of techniques suggest to me it's quite old. I don't know how old, but all of the hand horns I play on and baroque horns are copies. I'm just too nervous of transporting real old instruments around, and I wouldn't dare have people work on them, solder them. So, and copies tend to be more reliable unless you're very fortunate. So I think the actual oldest horn I own is probably, apart from that steer horn, is probably around the 1850s, 1860s.
Well, that's still like pretty original and pretty worth.
Yeah, they are. Unfortunately, most of them aren't dated. There's one interesting horn that I sent you on the Google links, which is it's by Zimmermann, who was from Leipzig and St. Petersburg, and this was obviously from the St. Petersburg branch of it, because it's all the writing is in Cyrillic, and it lists it says Music House Zimmermann, St. Petersburg, and then it lists all the prizes that this particular model of horn won. And I think the last one was possibly in Chicago in about 1901. Can
I post this link to your Google Pictures?
Please do.
Okay, it's up. So if any of you want to see that, I've just put it on the Horn Hangout page too. Those are Roger's pictures. You can have a look at that. They're beautiful.
There's a Zmitko. There's an interesting horn. It looks a bit like Anneke's Ullmann. It's got that triangular configuration of the valves, and that's by Zmitko in. Was I think in Looney, which is on the borders of Czech. And I think you can date, by looking at the dates of the makers, you can approximately guess that that was in the 1890s, but a lot of instruments are undated.
Yeah.
That I have.
Yeah.
So it's a guess, but
Yeah.
all my natural horns are very modern.
Yeah. Tony, what the cheapest one you play on, is that the Chinese model that you warm up on every day? Is that a reasonably priced one? If people watching this are going to take your advice and play the natural horn because it's good for the soul, and all of us, I think, need to learn this technique. All students need to learn this. Otherwise, we don't understand the origins of our instruments.
Quite right, yes. I'm sorry to turn this into an advertising plug, and I don't mean it to be.
Go for it.
No,
Go for it.
But I do sell from my website, but mostly to people who were able to call round here, but now they can't for the time being. I've got this very, very cheap entry-level natural horn, hand horn, made in China, and it comes with the 4 middle crooks. Let's call them the 4 solo crooks: F, E, E flat, and D. It comes in a large padded case, and I sell it for £565 GBP. So I'm not saying it's perfect. It's entry level. There are certain historical things which are simply not correct, but it works up to a point. It works very well. It's got a very small bell throat. I've got it here.
Good. Roger, where's your little mini one? Is it anywhere near?
Hang on a sec, I was going to look for it.
Right.
Well, that's a natural horn made in China. It's got the name Halstead on it for some reason, but anyway, it does the job. It's got a very, very small bell throat, so a very small movement of the right hand achieves a very large change in pitch. I'm not saying it's perfect, and lots of people that buy them move on within a year or 2 years to something much more sophisticated. But it is here, it's available, and it does the job up to a point. All right?
That's really great. And when I started studying the hand horn with you, there was no I remember I still have on my Mozart 3 music, which I just use. I've just recorded Mozart 3. And yeah, I did. I know. And we put some mambo on the CD as well. I'll send you one, Tony. Yeah, it's
Love to hear it.
Very exciting. But on my music, I thought of you. I recorded it in Havana, in Cuba, before the whole world shut down. And on my music are your half stopped and your circles. You remember? Your half stopped, your whole stopped. They're all on my Mozart 3 music. So you are. I love this music. It's just it just reminds me of you all the time. But there was no book yet when you were teaching me the hand horn.
There wasn't, and that's why I think Anneke's book is a major achievement. I mean, don't underestimate this. It's just phenomenal. But if I'd been teaching you then, if I'd had access to this kind of brain thought things that I've been doing for many years now, I might have given you something like this. Now, I wrote this out only 2 weeks ago, and that shows the building blocks of the notes that you manipulate in Mozart number 3.
Screenshotted.
So in other words, when you play the 4th note, you need to, in a preparatory way, you need to play the horrendously out of tune 11th harmonic in all its ringing glory. You need to get that pitch, I wouldn't say locked in place on your lips, because once you've got it, you've then got to bring it down slightly with the hand. But you've also got to vocalize the F as well. So it's a double process, the hand plus the vocalization, the internal part of the mouth, which gives a not too stopped quality. Similarly, when you play the B, when you play the last note of that bar, when you play the B, your lips are on a C, but your hand, your brain, and the inside of your mouth vocalize a B. So, I mean, basically, I wrote this out for an adult pupil of mine, Robin Blech, who's the son of the late conductor Harry Blech, and he's about my age, and he's doing great on the natural horn. And every day, in fact, he's going to have a Zoom lesson from me in 2 days' time. and he's really, really enthusiastic. And the other day he said to me, please, could you tell me what harmonics am I supposed to be on? So I wrote this little chart out for him. Anyway.
That's fantastic. Tony, do you think we could have a copy of it? Everyone watching today?
Yes, it's only the exposition. But I mean, look, people, you can do this for yourselves. You simply identify in the music. Obviously, it's got to be the horn written in C part. I mean, forget all that transposed the horn in F. That is nonsense as far as the natural horn's concerned. But you have to know, really, you have to know which harmonic you are actually manipulating, you know, and forget this business about stopping, pushing things up. The only two in the whole of the first movement of Mozart 3, the only two harmonics you have to push up are the written F sharp and the written middle B flat. I mean, those are the only two that need to be seriously manipulated upward. I mean, when you read Anneke's book, you read all sorts of other stuff, the subtleties of getting the major third to resonate correctly. I mean, you know, major thirds, if you get them to resonate with a piano, it's hopelessly out of tune for the natural. This is a very, very big subject. And once again, I can't stress too strongly, get Anneke's book, everybody.
I think that's the biggest lesson for today so far. Get Anneke's book. I can't wait to get it because, you know, guys, most of you are horn players. I know we have a cello player from Hamburg, and we have some really loyal people that do not play the horn but watch and a viola player, John from New York. They all watch the horn hangouts, but most of you are horn players, and I can't stress enough how important it is to know about all this stuff, to be able to play our repertoire, you know, our classical and Baroque repertoire, also romantic, in the right way. Because you can't just sort of guess where the notes are going to be and the colors of the notes. And in Mozart 3, for example, actually, Tony, you might not approve because I put a little bit of mambo in my cadenza in the concert rondo, but I'll send it. But for example, it's not only Baroque and classical stuff. Roger, you played. Oh, can you just show us? I saw your little horn you were talking about.
Here, yes.
Show us. That's so sweet.
I don't know if you can see, but just, you know, it's probably too close up, not light enough. But all of the little pairings are here.
Yeah.
And
Wow. And what does it sound like?
is the main note, but it's always good.
La la.
An unusual harmonic series for a horn.
Romantic.
Very romantic, huh?
Yeah.
But it sounds like, you know, when you hear you know, the really ancient, the Lurs and the Carnicks and things like that, they often have that seventh.
Right.
So you hear that seventh in the real kind of like there's a project that Letty Stott.
Oh, yes.
She's just got a project going on at the moment in which she's exploring all these really, really ancient. Sarah, she's probably somebody worthwhile knowing about. She's got this really exciting project that's happening, I think, at Britten Piers. And she's collaborating with Peter Holmes, who's this.
Oh, we've got the big boys coming in now.
Oh, telescopic.
How big is that? It looks like an alpine horn. Oh my goodness.
You can see what
Look at the
mouthpiece
mouthpiece. Tony, it sounds like La Danza, our cadenza.
Anyway, it's about 8 feet tall. But yeah, I remember Letty borrowed this one when she was starting off that project.
You know, yeah.
That's not a Swiss instrument, is it? It's not an alp horn.
No, it's Nepalese.
Oh,
Nepalese. Ah, right.
Yes. My mum brought it back. She went trekking in the Annapurna range, and I said, please bring me back a Tibetan telescopic horn if you can.
Yeah, you're not bringing.
I gave her £150. You know, if you can get one for that, that'd be fantastic. She went to the Bodhisat monastery in Kathmandu, and she said on no account they wouldn't accept more than £30 for it. So she gave the rest of the money away. And I got this. It's beautiful. It's got it's bronze. It's a bit dusty at the moment, but it's got jewels.
It's beautiful. Well, that all counts as natural horns, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Oh wow, Roger, that's amazing. So this project of Letty is her name?
Letty Stott.
Right. Okay. We'll keep a lookout for that. We've had the typical. Roger, I've got a question for you, but just before I ask you that question, because we've done Baroque classical already. We've gone from Bach to Mozart, and now I want to get on to Schumann. This is like history in a nutshell. But the mouthpiece question has come, and on Horn Hangouts, we're all allowed to be nerds, right, guys and girls? So, and the mouthpiece question is always allowed. And Thomas Hansen has asked about mouthpieces for natural horns. Now, can you tell us what you play on and what's a good idea, especially maybe if you're starting off? Because I remember I played on my mouthpiece, Paxman 4B. That's what I was playing on at the Guildhall. Roger?
Well, I tend to play on a PHC, Paxman Halstead Chidel 22A with a standard rim. It looks somewhat like this.
Yeah.
But and it's a slightly unusual shape, but it suits me because basically there's many variations you can have to this mouthpiece range, but essentially a bit like driving a car. It doesn't matter whether you have your clutch high or low, it's the biting point that matters. We're changing though. I have, with a similar, exactly the same rim size, I have a pure funnel mouthpiece here that just goes all the way down. There's no back bore at all. And that's kind of more appropriate to playing classical.
Why is that?
It's because we know from various tutor books that they tended to play on that kind of shaped mouthpiece. Now, the practical upshot of that is that it's not just a matter of changing the depth of the cup. It behaves quite differently.
Yeah.
I find it very hard to get edge and a lot of power on this one, and it's quite tiring to play. And for that reason, I do it quite sparingly. I mean, I've already taken a bit of a compromise because that's a reasonably large size rim for a classical mouthpiece. Some of the other ones I have are more like the Dennis Brain type mouthpieces here, the really little one. Almost, I mean, it'd be in danger of falling inside my mouth a lot of the time, I think. But yeah, but because I'm not exclusively a natural horn player, I tend to swap between instruments a lot, and a lot of my playing is done when I'm teaching in lessons, and I find it easier just to stick to my modern mouthpiece. Yeah, if I had more time to work up repertoire, I think I would.
I think it's really important that people know this. Roger actually has also a modern horn job, right, Roger?
Yes, that's right. Yes, for the last 20 years, I've been hiding away in the pit at the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden.
But I find if I'm swapping mouthpieces, I just get in a mess. So how do you manage to do your OAE work and then your how do you do all that?
I tend not to use my historical mouthpiece except where there's a really important point to make on it.
Right.
And another thing which people will have picked up is that Roger uses the same rim or a copy of it on his historical cup or historical mouthpiece. Uses the same rim that he uses on his modern mouthpiece. Now that's very difficult to do if you're going to be super duper authentic, because by and large, and I'm sure Anneke will tell us about this, old mouthpieces, I would say generalizing, but there are always exceptions. Old mouthpieces tend to be narrower in the rim, therefore more, when one could say, more sensitive to very small lip movements than a typical modern mouthpiece. But there is such an enormous range, and there was then an enormous range of mouthpieces. What do they say in House of Commons? Give way. I'll give way to Anneke in a few minutes, but I want to show you something quite remarkable. I've got a few old mouthpieces. Yeah. Now this, I'm told, when I bought it, this was supposed to be a Rau mouthpiece. It's made of nickel silver. It's made in one sheet of nickel silver, which is folded over, has a seam in it. It has a pretty narrow rim by modern standards. I'm sorry, I'm not holding it very. You're
being very brave, because usually when we have the mouthpiece question, people do this. They say, "Look, I play on this. Oh, it's really dirty. I'm not showing that."
Yeah. Well, I can play on that for a few minutes, and the reason why I can play on it is because it may not be clear, because you can't see perspectives, you can't see comparative sizes. But this diameter inside the cup, that is exactly the diameter that I have always used, 18.5 millimeters. Now, by 19th and some 18th century standards, that's actually not enormous, because the Dopra said that for a second horn, a mouthpiece should be 20 millimeters on the inside. Now, that's very large.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's like Roger's Tibetan mouthpiece, which, by the way, Roger, someone has just asked.
That's from one side to the other. That's not.
That's not the whole thing.
That's not the whole thing.
The,
It's just
internal.
Roger, Nigel Braithwaite just asked if you put a stopper in the mouthpiece and use it for, can you use it for beer or mead of your Tibetan mouthpiece? Sorry, Tony, carry on.
Right. I was going to say the internal diameter of this mouthpiece is 18.5, but 20 millimeters was the internal diameter in the Dopra book, unless I've misunderstood that. Anyway, I'm only showing that because that is an authentic Raoul mouthpiece. It's a Corbas mouthpiece. It's like Roger demonstrated, just a funnel with no choking, no bore, and the smallest point of the mouthpiece is right there at the end. But this is a mouthpiece I bought in Bologna Market 45 years ago, and that's the rim of it. I mean,
it's really hard to see, but if you hold it sideways, we can see it easier. Yeah, sort of in the black. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Now that is a huge rim, and here's another one which I also bought in Bologna, and that I showed to Fitzpatrick, and he said that was a Baroque mouthpiece. There's no bore, there's no back bore in that at all. Just a huge, great hole through the middle with a very broad rim indeed. I mean, but both of these have very wide rims by 18th century standards. But what I do is I use a plastic rim, because my lips have been allergic to metal for many, many years. And I use a screw rim, and the plastic rim simply screws off. And I sometimes use this, once again, a funnel mouthpiece, just like Roger's. And exactly as Roger has said, I use the historical mouthpiece with its deep funnel and its lack of a choking, lack of a backbore. I use it in certain contexts. I might use it in a lecture recital. Very rarely, when I was playing in public, I would use it for basso crooks. So to give much less resistance, I use this very deep funnel cup, say for C basso downwards. I could never get the high register to work, even on the D crook, using one of these funnel mouthpieces. But I think it's about, I've taken up too much of this conversation.
No, you have not, Tony. You are such a legend for us, Tony. You can take up as much of the Horn Hangout as you want.
But I'd love to hear what Anneke says now about old mouthpieces.
Yeah, she's been collecting. I've just been
collecting. Okay, so I live in a house with far too many instruments in it. But I'm coming from a bit of a different perspective on mouthpieces, which is, for starters, what Sarah, you were saying about the confusion about when you're swapping, and I kind of wonder whether languages are a good analogy with this, which is, you know, when people start to get proficient on many different languages, acquiring another one and another one and another one seems to become easier, because you've got so many different languages under your belt and you can use that information from this for that and the other. But when you've just got two languages, that can take a while to get going. And my inroad into playing with historical instruments was it's especially informed by Claude Moret, who was my teacher. I studied in France with him, and I just have this feeling, which is, if you're going to play natural horns, if you were to play a Baroque violin and use a modern bow, that would not make any sense. Why use a modern bow with a Baroque violin? You lose that feedback loop that you get from the instrument. So when I was a student, I was really keen to start to play on historic mouthpieces, but it was challenging, because again, it's a cost thing. You know, if you're going to keep on acquiring them, it starts to mount up. And so actually my first inroad into playing on historic mouthpieces was, I got one of Tony's the Vienna horn, the Vienna horn mouthpiece that you made. Yeah. And what I did was, it was like going on a diet. I went from a kind of normal modern rim, and because you could get the screw rim, I basically got myself down to the dimensions that you find in the Dobra and things like that.
My diet never works like that, but
you know, each day you get but that was my way into it. And then I got a mouthpiece, the moosewood mouthpieces from the States, and because again the whole thing was they could do the screw rim thing, so that meant I could experiment. But now my mouthpieces, I use different mouthpieces for different horns, because I kind of want to be reminded that this is a different horn when I pick it up. I don't want to kind of obliterate that information I get from the instrument. I want to know that this is a different instrument, because that makes me play it differently. That makes me approach it in a different way, which means I get the most out of the instrument, rather than kind of feeling as if they've all got the same thing. And I don't know whether this is going to be something that offends people on the Horn Hangout, but I also do 19th century tenor horn playing, and so I've been doing sax horn playing and things like that. So if I do that, I don't use an adapter and a French horn mouthpiece with a 19th century tenor. So sax horns and tenor horns are basically the same thing. I will use an appropriate mouthpiece for that. So I've got, I mean, this is a mouthpiece. If I hold it against that, you might be.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Against that, that's good.
So this is. Oh, actually, what I'll do is I'll hold it, and then there we go.
Ah,
This is like a really.
It's enormous.
Yeah. So this is again, this is a mouthpiece made by Egger, and it's based on one in a museum. So I might use that for Baroque horn playing. The one I use, I've got here. This is a bit like what Tony was saying. This is an original. Oh, it's
You've got a cool camera. That's very good.
So again, like Tony was saying, there's a seam down the side. My bog standard mouthpiece. So most of the time, I've got the instrument I was playing earlier. That's a Lucien Joseph Rau cor solo from about 1800. But my workhorse is a Marcel Auguste instrument from about 1830s. If I'm traveling, I've got an instrument from Jungwirth with a screw bell, and they had the technology to do screw bells back in the 18th century, so nobody can give me any trouble about that. If you go to the Horniman Museum in London, you'll see that there's some really old screw bell instruments. So it's
the
not...
little flat one, yeah, the curly whirly one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So most of the time, there's mouthpieces made by Oliphant in Paris, and those are my favorite ones at the moment. So yeah, but yeah, too many horns, too many mouthpieces, but I try to use ones that are appropriate for the instrument.
That's, you know, what you say, and I think it's just resonated. A lot of people have been commenting on this. What you say is the fact that playing on a modern mouthpiece, on a natural horn, you don't get in tune with you don't become one with the instrument as much as you should. I'm thoroughly ashamed. I'm taking my mouthpiece off now.
Different people. I mean, it's exactly as Roger was saying. We all have different. We have different things.
Hello. George, hello, we can hear you. Thank you. Sorry, I just heard a bit of back. He's in the Philharmonie right now, so I just heard about. Sorry, carry on.
No, all it is that we've got different things that we have to do. So we choose mouthpieces that are appropriate to whatever the task is in hand. So yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's all fantastic advice. And yeah, Susan Williams just said, great approach. Anneke Bauermaster said, it's fantastic to hear your expert opinions. Oliphant, everybody loves Oliphant, me too. I love them. Do you remember the grand-mère, their grand-mère, who used to drink champagne in the middle of the day? She was amazingly cool. Yeah, so thank you for that. That was true mouthpiece nerding. True. We went from Baroque with Anneke's daily cantatas to Tony's Mozart hand horn note tips. Roger, I just need a little something from you. First of all, if any of you don't know this, I need you have to know this. This is one of my favorite things Roger has done. Hang on, that is not the one we want. That was Tony. We're going to go here. Now look at this. Now look at this. Do all of you know this? I hope you do. It's called Naughty Notes, Roger. And that it's got a lot of hits. Anyway, I won't give away too much. But if any of you don't know the Naughty Notes by Mozart, get on over onto YouTube and look it up. Roger, can you just tell us quickly what that was?
Yeah, that was a reconstructed version by Stephen Roberts of Mozart's original sketches for the rondo of his D major concerto, which was actually the last one he wrote.
You've gone a bit quiet, Roger. I think your cool microphone. There you go.
I'll just talk into the microphone.
Oh, you can sing us a song.
Yeah. So this was for Mozart. Mozart wrote it for Leitgeb, who was quite advanced in years at the time, and he wrote a running commentary, not very polite. You can check it out. There's a translation there for those who can't read Mozart's writing. Anyway, it's been done a number of times, but this the tech team at the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment managed to project both the manuscript and the commentary behind. And this was a concert with quite a relaxed vibe in the Conway Hall in London a few years ago.
Concert.
I know, where people were sitting around drinking and chatting. And in the first half of the concert, I remember we played the fourth concerto, that is what's commonly known as fourth K495. And in order to indulge my colleague Martin, who's always been on at me about a little blip in the second movement, whether is it a B or is it a C? And everyone plays it as a B, but he insists it's a C. So I did it in that concert because it was a context where I did not think there would be any critics there to point it out.
And now it's on YouTube. It's gone viral.
Fortunately, that one isn't.
Oh, that one isn't. No, it's a lovely recording. Thank you. And I also love what a lot of the period orchestras do. They are so active in promoting what they do. Anneke, you've done so many. It's funny when you look at your videos, like I'm the principal horn for this, and then the next one is I'm the principal horn for this ensemble. Then the third one is.
That's also because it's a freelance field, and so there are no real jobs as an HIP player, and also as horn players we often don't get to play in all the repertoire, so you have this very much portfolio career out of necessity, because there's not going to be one ensemble that will be in a position to give you enough work to keep you going. So at the moment there's lots of groups asking us to contribute things.
I think it's really a really great idea. I especially like what the OAE, the orchestra, we always used to say the orchestra with the urge for imbibement, but that's not true, is it? It's of course you're all terribly proper. The Age of Enlightenment, it's one of Simon Rattle's most favorite orchestras, and they've done some very cool videos as well. So I hope you can check those out. But Roger is a particular hero of mine because he played the Concertstück on an original instrument, on first horn. Oh!
Several times.
Yes, I have to say, yes. I think I felt more comfortable with it back in the late 90s when I first had a go at it, and it was, the notes were the same. Well, actually the notes on the page were the same, but I think because it felt more experimental then.
Because
we kind of got through it. Yeah, sorry.
Did you do the Hanover Band one?
I did that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember as a school kid going to Birmingham Town Hall to hear Hanover Band play, and Raul Diaz would have been playing first horn, and Gavin and you, and who was the fourth?
And I think that was Martin Lawrence.
Oh, brilliant. So I heard the Hanover Band do Concertstück with you when I was a teenager. And then when I was an undergraduate, I came to hear you play it with Gardner. So you were really, those were really formative experiences for me.
And someone told me you came to the festival hall last year as well.
Yeah, of course I did. Support my colleagues. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I have to say, it's in spite of the fact that I felt in the 90s we got away with it, and they produced a very nice recording of it. It's not a piece that I feel comfortable with, and I don't even feel it's a piece that suits me very well. Always, as soon as it's in the diary, I have a pit of the stomach feeling, almost until you get out there on the stage. And I'm always glad when there isn't one in the diary at all.
Which horn did you use? I mean, everybody feels I would never play first horn in the Concertstück if you paid me £1,000,000. What was the horn? Can you just tell us about the horn that was used in the?
Yes, for the first time, both the Hanover Band performance when I was playing third horn and when I played first horn with the Orchestra Révolutionnaire et Romantique in 1997, that was an instrument I bought in New York, actually. It was sold to me as Bohemian F horn. It was missing a tuning slide and it had no crook, but it had little clock spring valves. It was and very, very amazing hexagonal pattern on them as well. It's hard to say exactly when it dated from, but at a guess, in manufacture, it's probably turn of the century.
What is as lightweight as a Vienna horn? I mean, I just can't even imagine how this feeling. I know Stefan Dodd, he loves the feeling of this horn in your hand. You know, you sort of feel safe with this heavyweight instrument that you can press on your face for the top E.
You don't feel safe with early valve horns.
It was a very light, but what was good about it, because it took a crook, then you have the option of experimenting, and I had lots of different crooks made. And eventually I found one, a Viennese, it was a Viennese sized crook, interestingly enough, but it was a rotary valve horn, but the crook that I landed on in the end had almost all of the notes on it, which is quite a rare thing for an early valve horn. You're normally curing one note at the expense of another.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Is there a picture of that horn in your collection?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, there is.
Oh, you even have it there?
I can. The horn.
Yeah.
I'll have to climb a ladder.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we don't.
Are up that ladder.
Ah, okay. Well, we'd like to do a horn hangout of Roger up the ladder next time. Roger, Tom Greenleafs has just written in from Leipzig saying you're the most absurdly modest guy on the planet.
Modernist?
Modest.
Okay. That's very kind of him.
No, but we posted the link to your maybe someone could post it again to Roger's collection and Anneke's website. Oh, there it is.
Oh, nice.
I would feel terrified on a horn like that. I feel terrified enough on mine, but
God. That's what it was like. Yeah. Terrified.
Well, the best thing is I bet they paid you a lot of money. Not. Tony's leaving the room. Tony, don't leave just yet. We're not quite finished because I've got a little question from Shipping Dongfang who says, what should we pay attention to with maintenance and care for a hand horn? I'm asking that because in one of the videos I watched of Annike's, she said we don't like to polish them a lot.
I remember when I first bought my first proper hand horn, which was from Andreas Jungwirth, and I turned up to my lesson with Andrew, and I asked him, you know, how do we look after them? And he said, don't polish them. It looks naff when they're polished, and so that's always stuck. There's I can send you the links. There's a set of polishes that I use for certain things, which is recommended by the British Museum. They use it actually for curatorial things, and there's a wax that you can use. Yeah.
Can I just quickly interrupt you because someone just asked, where is that? Patricia wants to know which is the Horn Museum with the horn in it you were just talking about, you and Tony.
The Horniman Museum.
Yeah, the Horniman Museum.
The Horniman. It's the Horniman.
The horn is in Horniman.
In southeast London near Forest Hill. And it's got a really quite remarkable collection of instruments. I think one of Putzi's horns is there. Wow. It's also got I think it's also got the Boozy and Hawks archive. It's well worth a visit. So Horniman Museum, Southeast London.
Thank you. Link, please, someone. Thank you.
Can I say something about tuning slides, please?
Yes, please, Tony.
Maintenance. One of my bugbears is a tuning slide which is so heavily greased that it's very hard to make instantaneous. You know, it's sometimes in the space of 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, you can enhance the intonation of certain notes by quickly adjusting the the tuning slide. And if the slide's too heavily greased, you can't do that. On the other hand, you have to have some grease on it, otherwise it'll wear out, because the metal against metal. I have to say, one of the most astonishing performances of the second part, well, the first and second, of the Beethoven Sextet, Opus 81B, which is a tour de force. I heard that maybe 20 years ago in Essen at a concert, the Herman Baumann festival, when Herman had made a fantastic recovery from his stroke. And I heard Lowell Greer and Francis Orval playing that piece, and they both played stupendously. But Francis played a wonderful second part, and in the last movement particularly, where you have to go he moved the tuning slide advantageously. So he was sometimes playing so open, stop, and sometimes stopped, open. I mean, he was like a chameleon the way he did that, but it very much depended on him very quickly removing the right hand from the bell, tweaking the tuning slide and getting the hand back in the bell. And I think if you can do that, particularly when you're playing that second part and lots of other places, you're at a great advantage. So don't let your tuning slide become corroded. Don't let it become stuck, because you won't be able to do the job as well as you can.
Great. Thank you for that, Tony. Roger, any pearls of wisdom to add?
Yeah, just I think I see this particularly on something that will become a thing of the past now. I think shared instruments in colleges.
Yeah.
But it's very easy, not if you're not used to the instrument, not to take care that the crook gets stuck in the receiver, and that as you turn it, pull it out, you actually twist and buckle the entire
Okay, so can you just explain that again? So you shouldn't do that?
You should do that. You should do,
that.
In fact, if you can ease it by just giving it a bit of yeah, exactly, yeah. Rather than, but if you
notice what key I warmed up in this morning. Sorry, wimp. I'll put in the little one in a minute. Yeah.
I think you get a sense for how to handle the instrument after a while, because what you can't do either is grease it, because then it will just slide around and fall around and start moving while you're playing. Are
there any secret things to get the water out quickly? Because I must say, if you do that and you do that, are there any secrets? Tony, it's your instrument. What should I do?
Don't keep taking the crook out, particularly when you do it quickly. I'll tell you why. Because what you just did then, you brought the crook round so it was at right angles. If you take it any further, you're going to dent where the crook touches the body of the instrument. So that's something to guard against.
Okay.
But with most double wound crooks, you only have to you can leave the crook in place, turn the instrument round once, twice, and then the water is in that angled bit where
this way.
Yeah. You don't have to necessarily remove the crook and do all this annoying stuff that some people do, making an awful noise, blowing. You can, with 2 rotations of the horn, you can then take your tuning slide out and get the water out that way. You don't necessarily have to take the crook out many, many times.
Water blowers are annoying on stage.
Yeah,
loud water blowers.
Very annoying. Yeah.
Let that be a lesson to you all.
Yeah. And people who are too noisy with the water key as well. There are, at this point, I could make a plug for Andrew Joy's extraordinary Joy key, which I think is one of the most, sensational inventions for brass players, certainly in the last 20 to 30 years. Anyway, look, that's another road we can go down. But I think at some point you ought to have Andrew Joy on. I
would love to have Andrew. I don't have a water key.
No. I'm talking about modern
horn. I was going to say that thing didn't exist yet, did it?
No. People who are very noisy with water keys with them.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Annoy me. That's all.
Right. Andrew Joy's water key, everybody. Thank you, Tony. Anneke, unfortunately we've been going for so long. We've got to wrap up now. There've been I'm sure you can check out the chat on Facebook and you'll see the various maybe there's some questions that we missed that you can answer yourselves. That would be amazing. But everyone's really been saying thank you very, very much. And have been watching from all over the world. Anneke, you just fetched your horn. Was there something were you going to?
No, it was just when you were. I was just going to mirror what you were doing and illustrate what Tony very eloquently explained.
Right. I thought maybe you wanted to. Yes, Roger.
While I was looking for my little horn, I found that poster I've been talking about.
Oh yes.
There it is. have swollen the faces.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That is brilliant. I just screenshot that one as well. Hurrah. That's absolutely brilliant. Just before we go, I'm just going to play I want to play for you a little excerpt of what for me is one of the best horn recordings ever. It's not that it's just played on a natural horn and it's played amazingly well. It is literally, for me, and I think Anneke and Roger, Tony will probably get very embarrassed now, but I would love to share this with you. For me, it's really one of the best things ever. Here we go. Bravo!
Sarah, have I got a second to say?
You do.
Okay, just about Tony, because having learned with Tony, as I remember you did, I remember going into a lesson after you once.
You had hair like this.
That's right. I did.
Yeah.
I had hair.
Yeah.
But I remember that Tony he was, as everyone probably knows, he's an amazing pianist, really incredible. And I used to go in and he would just say, "What are you playing today?" Sit down, play it, no music, just be all in his head. But I don't know whether everyone knows he's also a flute player.
Yes.
So I turned up once to play with the English Chamber Orchestra in Prague. Dvorak Violin Romance was on the program, and I thought, oh, that's quite a lot of blowing in that. Anyway, we sat down to the rehearsal. We went out there to rehearse. I sat down and I thought, oh, I recognise this handwriting and the part. It was Tony's, because that used to be Tony's job, principal horn of the English Chamber Orchestra. Anyway, I turned the page and it said, "Take flute." I thought, what? And there was a flute part. I thought, that looks very high for a horn. And it was an arrangement that I think Tony, perhaps you should tell this story.
Oh my goodness, you've got an amazing memory. So are you saying that you turned up to do the gig not knowing that you had to play the flute as well?
Well, luckily there was a flute player there.
Yeah. So that
Sorry, anxiety nightmare dreams.
no, it's a silly story. One of the things I did with the leader, sadly he's passed away now, the leader of the ECO at that time, Jose Luis Garcia, played the Dvorak Romance absolutely beautifully. And the director, Quinn Bellardi of the ECO, wanted to take that piece on tour with a skeletal orchestra, with, let's say, a Mozart 29 orchestra. So 2 oboes and 2 horns. And yet the Dvorak Romance, which Jose wanted to play, is actually for a full wind section. It's got its flute, 2 oboes, clarinets, bassoons, etc. So Quinn Bellardi said to me, could you arrange the Dvorak Romance for 2 oboes and 2 horns? So I sat up at nights, burnt the candle at both ends, worked on it slavishly, and I came to the conclusion that it was not possible unless you had a flute playing it as well. You know, you could just about. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I had to include the flute. And I did have a few flute lessons in my life, a couple from Webb Bennett and one, I think, from Peter Lloyd. And so I wrote the first horn part to double the flute at various moments. I say no more than that, but it was a can of worms, because obviously if they wanted to play that piece after I'd left the ECO, they had to.
There's only one person who can do that.
Play the flute. That's all. I'll go no more. I'll say no more than that. But thank you for raising it. I'm sorry that you were landed with that conundrum. That's all.
It really is like stress dream syndrome. You know, you wake up and you're told, you turn the page and it says "take flute," and it really did happen. That's hilarious. Roger, thank you for that. That is really fantastic. Guys, we've got to take you there, but I think it's absolutely wonderful to have had you here. And the biggest compliment to you all is that my website crashed. So many people wanted to see the Natural Horn Hangout that the website crashed. And thanks to all of you that hopped on over to Facebook to watch it there. And we will be putting up a recording of this very soon. There's one thing that we still have to do, and that's the traditional Horn Hangout selfie. Everyone likes to take photos of us with our instruments. Who's got an instrument nearby? The Tibetan monk or the Tibetan trumpet or the... Yeah, there we go. A Halstead Chadell,
Oh,
a Halstead
mouthpiece.
Webb with no mouthpiece. I'm just going to put on my modern day mouthpiece. Right, okay. Are we all looking through the... There we go. That's a good one. I like that, Roger. Okay, we ready? You guys ready for this, the Horn Hangout selfie? 1, 2, 3. Tony Halstead. Click, click, click. I can hear all those clicks going from all over the world. Thank you for that. Anneke, a pleasure to meet you. Really a big... I hope
Yeah.
everyone, I want your book, Horn Hangout t-shirt for a book. Okay, is that a good...
Well, sounds great.
Right, Roger, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your photo. I want a proper photo of that, please.
I can send you the full poster if you like.
Oh yes, please, signed, I hope. And Tony, what can I say? You're such a legend and such an inspiration for all of us. It's getting very dark there in your house. I think we'll open the curtains quite soon. You'll be allowed out. Thank you so much. A huge round of applause from all over the world for Tony Halstead, because after hearing that Hanover band recording of the Weber Concertino, I could listen to that a million times, really. I think I probably have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with me. Let's do a part 2 sometime. Okay, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you very soon on the Horn Hangouts. Keep a lookout on the website when the next one is going to be, very soon, I hope. And if any of you are hopping over to Andrew Bain's warm-up class, enjoy that now. It's middle of the afternoon here, but all of you in America, it's time that you warmed up. Maybe you could warm up on the hand horn today.
Yeah.
All the slide, all the valves stuck down. How would you recommend that? Can we practice modern hand horn on our modern horns? Yeah.
Easy. Yes, of course you can. Yes.
Then I think that we're dedicating today to the natural horn. Thanks to you three. Thank you very much. See you next time on the Horn Hangouts. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.